I'd like to start with a quote by Premier Li. Any Chinese speakers here? Do you know what this is? Okay. Can you guys? Okay, so it's Da Zhong Chuang Ye, Wan Zhong Chuang Xin. These were the famous words from Premier Li at the World Economic Forum 4 years ago. In English, it translates to mass entrepreneurship and innovation. And with this, he urged all Chinese people to be more entrepreneurial and to be innovative. And innovation became a national strategy for China, right? And it was one of the 5 pillars of the China's 13th five-year plan. But why? Why did the Chinese leadership believe that people, just regular people, could innovate? And that's because innovation, like Tom said, is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. All you need is an idea, and then you need to take action on that idea. And that's all innovation is all about. And the ones who are really good at doing this are the entrepreneurs. Right? We all know how entrepreneurs take their vision, work on it tirelessly to go build something and change the world. Any entrepreneurs here in the audience? Maybe one? Okay, so I think it's perfect. They're all busy changing the world, while all the guys like me working for a large corporate are here trying to figure out how to innovate. And the thing is that when you work in a large corporate, I think we all have ideas, right? Don't we? But we hesitate. We hesitate to bring our ideas forward because we are afraid that they will be shot down. Anyone here have faced this challenge, that they have ideas but they don't want to bring it up? Anyone? Or see, yeah, most of us, right? So we are so afraid because the corporate is not a place where new things are typically encouraged. But I'm here to tell you today that it doesn't have to be that way, because we could be intrapreneurs. So intrapreneur is an entrepreneur inside of a large organization who acts like a startup founder to create something cool and new. And it's not a new concept. Some of the greatest innovations of my lifetime have come from intrapreneurs. Art Fry, for example, he created Post-it notes at 3M by using a policy called permitted bootlegging, where the employees were given 15% of time to work on things they believed mattered. Jeff Raskins, he created Macintosh because he didn't like the direction Apple was headed in. Starting from Apple I, Apple II, Lisa, the Mac was getting more and more complicated and open, and he believed in a world where personal computer was simple and easy to use, and that's how we got Macintosh. And Ken Kutaragi at Sony, he was not happy with the experience of Nintendo, so he risked his job to create the gaming console that he dreamed of in the way of creating PlayStation. And let me ask you, how many of you here had heard of Art, Jeff, and Ken before today? Like 2, 3 people, right? And although the intrapreneurs are as responsible for changing the world as entrepreneurs do, very few of us even know that such a thing exists. And I'm here to change that. So for the last 3 years, I've been running a program at Intel called Ideas to Reality, where we enable and empower our employees to bring their ideas to life. Be it you're a receptionist or even a research scientist, every employee has a way to get their ideas heard and have the same chance of bringing their vision to reality. And doing so, what I realized is it's not easy to innovate in a large organization. You see, you have the creatives on the one side and the business folks on the other side. And it's a job of the innovator to bring their ideas from one side to the other by crossing the chasm. And it might sound daunting at first, but not if you break it down into small steps, which I'm going to talk about next. It starts with ideation, that is creating the right ideas, incubating your idea, validating the business, and finally pitching it to the right people at the right time. So let's dive into what ideation is about. See, when you are an entrepreneur, the sky is the limit, right? You are in an uncertain environment. By no way it is constrained. But when you are in a corporate, you are not only innovating in an uncertain environment, but also constrained. So what you need to do is your ideas need to be relevant to the business you're in, or to the vision or the long-term direction of your company. The second thing is what you're asking for needs to be reasonable. By definition, in any project that falls into this category of intrapreneurship are not planned. So you need to be very reasonable in the kinds of resource you're asking from your management. And last but not the least is you need to have this innovations time out in a timely manner. You know, the guy who is supporting you may not even be in his role 2-3 years from now. So if your innovation is going to time out in 5 to 10 years, he may not even be interested in supporting your innovation. And if you have like grand ideas, right, like the moonshots, there's a completely different way to innovate, and that is planned. And the Facebooks create building 8, the Google go for project X. It's a different way of innovating. Intrapreneurship has to be relevant, reasonable, and time-bound. So next is, once you have an idea, you need to be able to incubate those ideas. You need to turn your ideas on paper into something that is tangible. So in our world, we say demo or die. We don't take anything forward unless we see how it works. We don't like PowerPoint engineering, and this is especially true of the tech companies. We need to see and feel and touch and see how the things work, not just something written on a PowerPoint or a piece of paper. And for that, we enable and empower our employees to turn those ideas into proofs of concept by giving them the space, the time, and the resources they need to turn those their ideas into something of a demo. And I'm going to show you a couple of demos. The first one is an augmented reality pool. A guy came up with an idea. He said, the pool has a few problems. He thinks it's boring. It's also difficult. What if we use technology to make it exciting? So what he did was he combined a camera, a projector, and gave it a little AI brain so that the AI can see what's happening on the table and project stuff on it. So I'll show you a short video of what it looks like. So here you can see the computer is able to track all the balls, is able to tell where the shot is going to go. It can also suggest the kinds of shots you could take, and even challenge the player to do some trick shots. So like this. So you can hit that ball and get the cue back into the target. I'm going to show you another cool demo that is created by our employee. And this is creating video effects using deep learning. Have you guys heard of Cinematograph? Cinematograph is this first effect where the whole video is stationary except for 1 or 2 objects that are moving. And if you're an artist, it would take you close to an hour to create this effect. But using deep learning, what you could do is you could do something called segmenting images out of a video. So then you're not tracking pixels, you're tracking images. And then you can manipulate them as and when you want. For example, in the next video, what you could do is you could track the person shooting the ball and create something called a shadow collection. Or here, you can replicate a person in the image, or you could do anything user-defined. And these guys have created a service where you can take a short video of 10 seconds, upload it to our web service, and within 15 seconds, you can create these effects. So what would take an hour before can be done in 15 minutes. But innovation is not about just cool, shiny demos. It's about making money, right? In the end, what separates innovation from novelty is the ability to make money from those innovations. If you're not creating something that brings value to the customers, that is willing to pay for what you've created is just a novelty. It's not an innovation. And to do that, what we have created is something called a Startup X. This is a completely new way of doing business. Usually what big corporates do is they plan and plan and plan, and they launch a rocket. So it's like launching a rocket from the bottle. The launch is planned very well, but once the rocket goes off, it may not even hit the target. You can launch a beautiful product, but it will completely miss the target. Sometimes, I think what they say is 85% of all corporate projects don't really bring in the revenues or the money. So what we do is we use the lean startup methodology, which is like driving a car. So you know where you're going to go, and you constantly course correct based on what you hear from the customers. And in order to do that, what we do is we bring our innovators out of our office and have them accelerate their businesses from a startup accelerator. And for this, we have partnered with a co-working space called XNode in Shanghai, and a High-Tech Excel is a business accelerator from Netherlands that helps our internal employees learn the startup way of doing the business. And if you guys are interested in learning about the lean startup, Eric Ries is a great resource to do that. And I think we have a speaker later this afternoon talking about lean startup, right? So the next thing is, once you have a validated business case, it's about pitching your idea to the management. And this is general thought that people in the East are not as good as people in the West at selling their ideas. But what we have learned over the last 3-4 years of running this program is this skill can be taught and can be learned. The guy here presenting is 2 years out of school, and he's able to get his idea across to, I think, 4 VPs and one of the country presidents. So, what we have seen is definitely, if you train people, they're able to sell the ideas just as confidently as anyone. And what have we achieved by doing all this? So over the last 3-4 years, we have incubated more than 100 ideas. We have taken 32 of those projects through our business acceleration, and we have had 4 product launches. So I think it's not bad considering, like one product per year. Around more than one. The latest being Jin Dong's Ding Dong Play. I'm not sure if you guys have you guys heard of Jin Dong? It's like something like an Amazon of China that sells the electronics online. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit and talk about what it's like to be an intrapreneur, right? What you've seen so far is intrapreneurship from the viewpoint of the organization. I'd like to talk about what it is like to be an intrapreneur. And to do that, I would like to take you back 15 years. When I was in the Silicon Valley, I was just finished my master's and continuing on to PhD at Stanford, when I took a summer off to go and do an internship at Apple. And I was made a part of an intrapreneur's project. We were creating this touchscreen interface where you could use all 10 fingers to manipulate objects under the screen. We had the killer app, a map that you could zoom and pan using very natural gestures on smooth surface of glass. And when I saw that, I knew this was going to be the future. And this was at a time where the state of the art was poking at a screen using a stylus, one poke at a time. So like a normal entrepreneur, I took, dropped out of school and joined Apple full-time to try and create this new interface. So what we did was we created a touchpad. It was meant to be an accessory for for a computer where you could use your finger to manipulate stuff on the screen. We showed it to Steve, and he was not impressed. He said, can you create a computer out of this? So we went ahead and went back to the drawing board, created a tablet, showed it to him, and he was not impressed. He said, it's too big. Can you make it small? So we did the same thing. We went back. We created a small tablet. He was still not happy. Said it looks too much like a Windows computer. The tablet needs to be thought completely from the ground up. It needs to be like a book. So we kept iterating, and he was never, ever satisfied. And doing so, we ended up with like a lab full of tablets. I was wondering, it had been 1.5 years. We are just, creating this prototypes, and nothing is, we are not able to impress anyone. It's not going anywhere. And at that time, a software guy got hands on one of the prototypes, and he created this cool effect called a rubber band effect, where when you reach the end of the screen, it bounces back. It's called a rubber band effect. And then they showed it to Steve. And he jumped out of chair and he said, I know what we can do with this. Stop working on the tablet. We are going to build the phone first. So 1.5 years later, the iPhone was launched. So you may wonder what happened to the guys who are doing the tablet, right? So we were not made a part of the iPhone team. So, yeah. So, like an intrapreneur, the guy who were working on this, just started where he left off, went on to build the world's smallest MP3 player, iPod Shuffle. I'm not sure if anyone has used the iPod Shuffle. It was like this tiny, you could clip it. Then I moved to China 1 year later. At the same time, iPhone was being launched. And as the luck would have it, I was reunited with the iPad 3 years later, and I was there to see the iPad's roll off the production line in Shenzhen. 1 year later, I moved to Intel, and after doing some 3-4 years in R&D, I founded Ideas to Reality that I talked about today. Right, so what did I learn from this long intrapreneur's journey? The first thing, and it's kind of a cliche, that the failure, people say fail fast, but I think it's really important, that failure is a stepping stone to the success, right? Through all those failures we had in the beginning, we learned something that we used later when we were actually creating the iPad. If we had not gone through that experience, we would not have been good at creating the iPad when the time came. The next thing is that innovation is a zigzag journey. You may start with one thing in mind, and you may completely end up in a place where you never imagined it to be. So a lot of people say, let us plan innovation. You can plan for it, you can plan resources, time, people, but you cannot really plan the outcome of the innovation. You just have to take the journey and see where it takes you and learn things along the way and enjoy the ride. And last thing I learned is that culture is one that matters the most. A culture that allows people or the employees to innovate, that allows employees to fail. They don't ask what you have achieved, but ask what you have learned. And if you can create a culture or create an environment in your company that allows people to raise their ideas, you will be innovative. But what if you don't, right? What if you don't listen to your employees? One of the two things can happen. The first is easy. The people will leave. The good people will leave. And you'll say, big deal. I'll put 3 names here. Anyone knows who these guys are? Maybe not, right? But these 3 guys were so frustrated at Google that their ideas are not being heard. They went ahead and founded Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest. That's combined value like more than $50 billion. That could all have been Google's business and revenue today. The second thing that can happen is even more drastic. And no, it's not that they will take selfies and post it on Facebook. So we live in a generation where we like to take selfies, right? But what enables taking a selfie is a digital camera we have on our phones. When I was growing up in the mid-'80s, we had no digital camera, we had no phones. What we had were Kodak moments. We had to take a picture on the film and print it on paper. But I think not everyone knows this, that during that time, the digital camera had already been invented by none other than an engineer at Kodak called Steven Sesson. He had created a digital camera, that's what he's holding. When he showed it to his board, they laughed at him. They said, this is a digital toy. We are in the business of paper and chemicals. And they sat on that invention and sat on that invention, did nothing until they got bankrupt in 2012, put out of business by the very digital camera they had created. And this came to be known as the new Kodak moment. And this won't be the last. A study put forth by Washington University, it says that 40% of all Fortune 500 companies will be gone in 10 years, not just dropping off the list, but extinct. And I don't believe this is an exaggeration. And there are two things. The first is that it costs next to nothing to create a startup today. So in order to counter the innovation that's happening out in the startup ecosystem, fueled by the entrepreneurs, you need to have a healthy number of intrapreneurs inside, right? Because, think of this. Every minute, I believe, there are like 10,000 startups being created just in China. And at least 1% of them have the potential not to just disrupt you, but your entire industry. So you better disrupt yourself than let someone disrupt you. The second thing that's happening is the millennials are coming of age. And they will form the majority of our workforce not too distant in the future. And the millennials, they want to work on things that they believe in. They want to have a little autonomy in what they do. They want to have a say in where their company is going. And you're not only under pressure from the outside, you'll be also under pressure from inside, from your own employees to change. So these two things makes me believe that entrepreneurship is going to be the future of work. The question is whether your company will realize before it's too late. So to end my talk, to the employers in the audience, I would like to urge you guys to give entrepreneurship a chance. And for the employees here, if you have a great idea to change the world, you don't have to quit your job. You can do it from right within. Thank you.